Welcome to another episode of Not That Hard to Homeschool, the podcast for real people so that you can confidently, competently, and yes, even contentedly provide the high school education that is best for your teens and your family. I'm your host, Lisa Nehring from NotThatHardToHomeschool.com.
Self-paced, no prep for you. It's the homeschool math curriculum I wish I'd started with sooner. Try it free today. Just head to ctcmath.com. That's ctcmath.com. You're going to breathe easier.
Hello, everybody. I'm so glad you're here today for another episode of It's Not That Hard to Homeschool. I'm your host, Lisa Nehring, and super excited about the episode today. You know, parents today aren't worried about just grades anymore. They're worried about whether their kids can handle life. And I think that has been a more and more prevalent concern since 2020. They're worried about if their kids can think clearly, if they can make decisions, if they can lead themselves before trying to lead anybody else. And today's conversation is about the missing piece in modern education. That is life skills and leadership skills that actually prepare kids for adulthood. Now, today I'm excited to welcome my friend and guest, Kerry Beck. She is the mastermind behind Life Skills and Leadership Summit. Kerry's a mom, a homeschool graduate guide, a curriculum expert, entrepreneur, and lifelong learner who loves both wisdom and joy, and she brings that to everything she does. She holds a master's in curriculum and instruction, and she'll be the first to tell you that she learned more about education through homeschooling her kids for 10 years, mistakes and all. Kerry loves Jesus, laughter, travel, chocolate, coffee, pizza, and Saturday mornings reading in bed. What a great list. And she's passionate about helping families raise confident, capable, grounded kids who are ready for life. So, Kerry, welcome to the podcast. So glad you're here. And yeah, say hello.
Hello, thank you. I sort of forgotten all that. I was like, wow, listen to that intro. I'm impressed, but thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
I'm glad you're here. I think I've been part of the LSLS Summit for, I don't know, several years. It's a great program you have set up. You bring in guest speakers who talk about their areas of expertise, and you have such a great lineup every single year. We're going to get more to that as we go into the show, but we want to talk about some of these concerns that parents are having. When you talk with parents today, I know you talk with parents all over the country. What do you hear that they're most worried about when it comes to preparing their kids for adulthood that goes beyond academics?
Well, I would say whether they're ready for adulthood or not, it's, am I doing enough? Am I doing the right things? They just feel so unsure about whatever it is that they're doing. And I think the irony is, I think they wish there was just this checklist. And you think, oh, if I had this checklist, then everything would be okay. And yet that's not really the case, because a checklist is just someone else's idea of what your kids should be doing. And I think some of it is just paying attention to our kids and listening to them and helping them get to where they want to be. I had two girls that they do not like math, and they could get through math, but they were never going to go do anything in life in a math realm. And so you have to pay attention to your kids, but you also need to, I personally think, prepare them to where they could learn for themselves wherever, whatever God brings into their life, so that they can have the tools of learning. And I think if moms and dads had some of that foundation, they wouldn't be saying, am I doing enough? Am I giving them the right thing? Are they going to be okay? Put on those future lenses and go, oh, yeah, look, I can see they're okay. And, God just doesn't give us those future lenses lots of times.
No, that is for sure. We've noticed a lot of anxiety at True North with parents, particularly since 2020. And I think that those couple years in there, 2020 to 2022, everybody noticed a big shift in what was happening with education. People really kind of finally saw up close and personal what was happening in some of the public school and government school situations, but also AI really came on the scene in a big way. So there was two big shifts going on. And I just read an article in Hedge Fund of all places. Somebody sent it to me that said 25% of colleges are going to close in the next couple of years. 25%. So parents are aware of this disruption. And I think when you're saying they're just so worried that they're doing enough, like, I think that's really a serious concern for parents. Like, okay, so do they have academics? What do life skills look like in today's world? And what would you say? I mean, that was a lot packed in there, but what would you say to address that? Because I feel like you're going to have a really down to earth answer here.
About down to earth, but I will say this. First off, I would say give yourself grace and patience and
Yeah.
give your kids grace and patience. You're not gonna cover everything in the world that they
Right.
need to know. You
Hmm.
just can't do all of that. I was a public school teacher for 6 years. I never finished a textbook. And so
Hmm.
I think we need to take a step back and look, what is what is education? Doing a
Right.
bunch more book work and checking all the boxes and making
Hmm.
them take more classes is not necessarily education. Now, I'm
Right.
not saying you shouldn't do that at all, but I'm just saying we need to look at a bigger picture. And I
Right.
do think um, okay, I'm just say people in general, they see what the public school's doing, and yet they walk away from it because they feel like it's failing their kids, and yet they still compare themselves to whatever that checklist is.
Yeah.
I think it's real important that we do look at real life skills. For me, the most important thing, I would say in the middle of it, but when I was homeschooling, now that I look back, the biggest thing was building those relationships with my kids
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
them with each other. And so relationship building,
Hmm.
communication, character building, being able to make wise decisions and think critically, and for us to think biblically. Those are some things that sometimes we sort of miss out on because we're
Hmm.
so worried. Okay, do they have
Yeah.
2 years of foreign language? Do they have history and math and all this other stuff? So
Hmm.
sometimes
Yeah.
we just need to take a step back and say, what is real education for me? To me, is more than just a degree.
Amen. I love this quote by Will and Ariel Durant that says, "Education is the transmission of culture," and that just makes it so simple, doesn't it? Like, what culture are we transmitting to our kids? What culture do we want them to go out into the world? That makes it so much more simple. And we followed a pretty academic program. Honestly, we're pretty. My husband and I are a little academic ourselves, and so that just really fit with our family. But you don't have to have a really robust educational experience and life for your kids, right? So I love that. Yeah, that's just really practically, what do you want them to leave your home knowing and understanding? And you touched on this a little bit too, but just really developing that lifestyle of learning so that they could go out and learn anything after they graduate on their own. And the fancy term for that is becoming an autodidact. And that just means, can you learn on your own without formal education? And Kerry, you're a great example of that too, because you have a whole business online. You're a former educator. Like, you're helping people learn online skills and helping them learn how to teach their kids leadership skills. Do you have formal training in that or no?
Well, I mean, I had an accounting major. That's my business side of me. I do have a master's in curriculum and instruction, but I don't use that. I mean, I can read a scope and sequence up and down, backwards and forwards. I can tell you what, I
Mhm.
can write my own, but I don't know that that really prepares our kids for life just to go through scope and sequences and go through all the curriculum. So, yeah, I have that background. It may just come out naturally without me thinking about when it comes, like when I work with kids at church, they're like, "Oh, you're such an educator." I'm like, "That's just sort of what I do. I like kids and I like to make sure that they learn it." But
Yeah,
um, I do think we need to take a step back, and there are tools of learning that you're not going to be with them for the rest of their life.
yeah,
And when my kids left, it took about 4 or 5 years, but this was sort of my goal, or our goal was that our kids could think critically and biblically and make wise decisions.
yeah.
Now, where is math and science? But you can take that and you use that within everything that you do so that
Hmm.
your kids aren't just following. I think
Yeah,
we do a disservice to our kids in that all they do is do whatever the teacher or mom tells them to do. And then they're in 12th grade and they don't even know how to make a decision for
yeah.
themselves. So we need to give them those opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think you can learn some of those critical thinking skills through math, but you don't have to hammer the math home to do it the other way around. So yeah, critical thinking is so important right now. Leadership and life skills seem to be the quiet gap, and even high achieving homeschool families. So, what do you think? Why do you think those skills are often assumed? Like our kids are going to understand life skills and leadership skills, but not intentionally taught. I want to just share this simple story from my youngest daughter, who was in college a couple years ago, and she was getting really sick using the food service program provided. And so she started just buying groceries and making her own food in the dorm. And she would make a big pot of soup every week. Well, everybody on the dorm floor would bring their bowl and spoon and ask if they could have soup with her. And she's like, listen, it's just a basic stock soup with some vegetables thrown in. You know what I mean? I don't even think she had meat in there. Nobody had ever made soup before, which to me is like, hey, can you make eggs 8 ways and make soup? And you're good for life, right? But these kids all had brand new cars and laptops, but they couldn't make a basic meal for themselves. But I think a lot of times we assume those skills are just going to be caught, not taught. What do you think about all that?
And I do agree. I do believe that there's a lot that's caught and taught, but I also think we do need to teach our kids. I love to cook. My kids grew up learning to cook. In fact, my son, he was so busy in high school playing basketball and everything
Mm.
else. I remember he was getting ready for college and he's like, Mom, can you give me some cooking lessons? And so I was like, they all know how to bake. He makes better chocolate chip cookies than I do. But
Uh-huh.
so they did learn that. One of the things I discovered was when my kids were little, we live a mile from Texas A&M University. I hired a college student to come help me clean the house. I don't know if I was having a party or what.
Yeah.
And I had to go back and clean after this young lady. And in my head, I thought, my kids will know how to clean a bathroom. They will know how to clean a kitchen beforehand. So we
Hmm.
did
Yeah.
start to weave that in to what we do. And sometimes it was a Saturday morning before we did anything, everyone pitches in and they learn to clean. And it wasn't like I was going around with a white club. I just wanted them to know what a clean bathroom looked like and how
Hmm.
to achieve that. Um, and I do think basic things like cooking and cleaning and time management. I will tell you a
Yeah.
story. My middle daughter was at Texas A&M. I think she was a junior. We were driving to my parents, just the two of us. And she goes, Mom, thank you so much for what you did in our high school. And I was like, oh, really?
Oh,
What?
nice.
I was so much more prepared than my friends were to go to college, not with the academics, but because I knew how to study, I knew how to
Mhm.
manage my time, I knew how to dig into a topic and learn it for myself. And my friends didn't know how to do any of that, and they were just
Oh,
failing classes.
yeah.
Again, time management, study skills, tools of learning. To me, I was like, that's just natural. That's what I just want you to know. And yet, if you go to a traditional school, the kids are not getting that. So I encourage homeschool moms and dads to take a step back and make sure they're getting the skills. And I will say one more thing, and then
Yeah.
but entrepreneurship, you and I are kindred
Yeah,
spirits.
for
We've
sure.
had our own business. Well, Steve started Beck's Decks the year after we got married. So that was like brick like service business. But we had online businesses while the kids were in junior high and high school. They
Mhm.
all worked in our business. They
Yeah.
learned QuickBooks. And when they took accounting in college, they're like, oh, QuickBooks makes so much sense now, but if they need to start a business, not necessarily online, they do have those tools to be able to make money if they need to. And so that was another thing besides critical thinking that we wanted to be able to pour into our kids.
Yeah, I love it. We're totally on track with each other as far as entrepreneurship goes. Tell me a little bit about leadership skills. What leadership skills do you think our kids really need to learn in high school, and how can we teach those? Because I think a lot of people are like leaders are born, and yet if you look through families, I mean, it's just interesting to think about that a little bit more deeply. What are your thoughts about all that?
Well, I would say this before we talk about how to do it. I think we should define the term leadership
Hmm.
because a lot of people think, well, my kid's not going to be president of the United States or
Right.
CEO or
Yeah.
something. And John
Yeah.
Maxwell, guru of leadership,
Yep.
says leadership is influence, nothing
Yes.
more, nothing less. It is
I love
influence.
that.
We all will influence people. And so I think we need to rethink what leadership is. For
Yeah.
me, I will tell you, and this is what we teach in our Raising Leaders course, is leadership begins with character.
Mm.
And yes, we can teach some people skills and like that up in high school, but character begins at infancy, and we can begin building godly character, and it's something that's going to be lasting for a lifetime. If they learn a work ethic, perseverance, to do the right thing and to tell the truth, those are things that will carry them for life, even if they don't know exactly how to
Mhm.
use some platform or software or whatever they need. Because of a work ethic or endurance and perseverance, they can. And so, one of the things we just sort of say is pick one character quality for a
Mm.
semester that you want your child to work on. And it's probably going to be different because each child has different strengths and
Yeah.
weaknesses. Here's what I actually tell them is now that I didn't know I was going to need my little prop here, get a post-it note for each child. Put their name on it, put the character quality that you want to build in them. And then I say, write a verse and then spend some
Mm.
time talking to them. You put this on the refrigerator. And if they're doing it, you can have blessings for them. If they're not, you might go ahead and put a consequence for it. But put it on there, and everyone knows what they're working on for a semester.
Mm.
I would say the child can write that verse on an index card, and every morning they read it out loud and pray it, and they're going to memorize it, if you want an
Hmm.
easy way to memorize scripture. But
Yeah.
that way, your character isn't mom telling them what to do,
Right.
it's using God's word, and we take it off of mom's shoulder and we put it on God's shoulder. So I think the
Mhm.
foundation of leadership begins with character, and there's a whole bunch that you could do with
Yeah.
that. So,
I
you
100% agree. Yeah, we
yeah.
all we all can point to influencers who are poor leaders. I mean, Hitler's a great example. He had great influence and it was incredibly destructive. So, yeah, leadership is influence, and how are we going to really build our kids' character so that they're influencing for things that are good, true, and beautiful? And I know that phrase is so overused at this point, but the reason why it is because it's so important.
It is so,
Yeah,
so true.
yeah.
So, yeah,
That's
I
a
think
great
in
tool.
character, and then we do go into, I mean, a good leader is learning all the time. I think a
Yes.
good leader reads. I've had some moms
Yeah.
go, I don't know, because they learn by podcast or whatever, but I believe no matter what you are, if you're a leader, you are a lifetime learner because you're
Right.
constantly learning about people, but you're also growing in yourself. And that can begin with your Bible time, but then also just learning. I turned 67 in a few weeks. I am still learning skills of,
Yeah.
leading people or leading
Yeah.
kids and tweaking this, that, and like I still have to learn how to talk well and not be negative sometimes. And so I'm still learning
Yeah.
communication skills. It's a lifetime of learning.
It is. I love that. My grandma died a week or a couple weeks before she turned 100, still living in her home that she lived in, and she was alone with her pets, and she was still reading and learning, and like like her whole neighborhood came out to say goodbye to her at the funeral, and just she was still really invested in people. So no matter how old you are, you still have a lot of life to live and to give. And that is one of the things about a leader is just they are giving, they're investing in other people. You do that very well, and I think we need to really encourage our kids to think outside themselves. That's not always easy for us, and certain personalities it's more difficult than others even. But really thinking about how can you serve others, because when you serve, you're influencing. And if you go back to your definition of a leadership as an influencer, we can influence so well by having a generous spirit and serving in appropriate ways. So I love that definition. That's fantastic.
Oh, good. And a servant leader, that term's used over and over, but there's just so much truth. I'll tell you a story. My son and high school, his senior year, played football, and our TV station chooses one senior athlete that's a leader at different schools to honor on Friday.
Oh,
And his Spanish teacher had nominated him. So they came out to his football practice and they're interviewing him. And one of the questions was, what's your style of leadership? And his answer was, oh, I'm just a servant leader. I serve the other guys on my team.
I
And I
love it.
just, well, one, I was like, Mama here going, oh, but still, I thought that was just a really good attitude.
Yeah.
And that is just how he is normally to serve. If we take a group picture, he's always the one in the back. And so it is real important that our kids learn to serve.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We've covered several of the other questions I have, but from your work with families who are doing many things right, where do you still see them feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or unsure about the next step in preparing their kids for adult responsibility? Is there anything that just really jumps out at you?
This may sound backwards, but sometimes I think they want to do too much. They're like activity after activity after activity instead of just focusing on the most important and
Mm-hmm.
preparing them. And I will say again, I think you need to take each child, especially up in high school, you need to take each child individually. Some of your
Yeah.
kids aren't going to go to college, and that's okay.
Yeah,
College
for
is
sure.
not the end all be all. Some
Hmm.
of your kids might go straight into the workforce, or like I was having my hair cut by this girl. She had a college degree and decided she didn't want to do it and went to hair school instead. And
Yeah.
so, I was like, we need to pay attention to them and use those high school years to really develop what is their calling, not what do you think
Hmm.
their calling is.
Yeah.
Let them decide. And I will give one suggestion to moms of high schoolers, and
Mhm.
that is starting at least your freshman year, let your kids start making decisions
Mhm.
about their homeschool and don't make it all for them, because then you begin to allow them to lead and take ownership in their education
Mhm.
instead of just follow. And it's so simple. I would just
Yeah.
meet with, or we talk about what they're going to do. Then every Monday, I didn't write a lesson plan for them. I didn't tell them what to do. We talked and they wrote it down. And really, by junior year, they could just plan everything themselves.
Mhm.
But we need to give our kids the opportunity to take
Yeah.
leadership and ownership in areas of their life. And homeschool is sort of an easy place to get started.
Yeah, I love that. I do think allowing our kids to make their own decisions earlier on. Now, I think as moms, we know our kids pretty darn well. We might know them a little bit better than they know themselves because we have experience in the world and we have that objectivity that they don't have. Nobody does about themselves. And I do think some kids, they might have the ability to go further in an area, but they're just like, I'm bored. I don't want to do it. And it's too hard. And that's where we can jump in and say, no, I really see value in this for you in particular and encourage them to keep going. Or to say, are you going to really use that? I mean, so we can be a coach and a mentor to them instead of like the pedantic teacher instructing and demanding and those kind of things. I mean, I think there's a shift we can make, especially as they get older, and let them take more, like you said, more personal agency for their own learning and their own education.
And I love that word coach. In fact, I actually use that when I am teaching moms how to, because when you're at the beginning, you're modeling and you're doing almost
Yeah.
all the work. And they're like, make cookies. Like they can't measure 2 cups when they're 3 years old, but they sure can sprinkle sprinkles everywhere.
Yeah.
But then you start teaching a lot.
Yeah.
But by those high school years, you're a coach. And I have never seen a coach get in a football game and throw a touchdown. They are on the sidelines coaching and preparing and doing all the back work and
Mhm.
making sure getting them to where they get to a win. And so
Yeah.
personally, I like that word. And sometimes as moms, we want to keep telling them what to do. And we need to allow, the other thing is it hurts, but we need to allow them to fail and
Hmm.
be there to be able to help pick them up and let
Yep.
them walk through that and learn whatever lessons God has for them.
Right. And failure is just a point on a timeline. It is not the end of anything. And any of us who've been married for a week or had kids for a week or had a job for a week, we've all failed. And that's just part of life. It's just part of our story. Then we have more great stories to tell. about how we overcame it. You see this in the business world all the time. Somebody got fired or lost a business, and then the next thing you know, they rose from the ashes and have $1 billion company. So we need to teach our kids that failure is not a static word. It's really a dynamic word that means your scientific method is at work and you formed a hypothesis, tested it, and now you need to go back and reformulate. It's that simple. So yeah, I think when we can help our kids, fail while they're at home, that just builds resiliency where they can say, oh, I got this, I know what to do next, and I just regroup.
Yeah,
Life
so
skill
good.
right there. um,
Yes, failure
yeah.
life skill.
So tell us a little bit about the LSLS, the Life Skills and Leadership Summit, why you started it. Have you been doing this for like how many years, Kerry?
5 years, I
5 years?
think.
I
Yeah,
was thinking, yeah,
I think this is our fifth year. I have another event. I don't know that we'll be doing it this year. Homeschool Superheroes, and
yeah,
that was fun. It was mostly it was more about how to homeschool,
yeah,
and we had a fun theme with it. But as I kept teaching leadership education to my moms, I thought I would really like to focus on that. I don't really see much out there, especially in the homeschool world.
right.
And then I was also thinking leadership is a life skill. And then
Yes.
what other life skills do we need? And they just seem to merge together really well.
Yeah.
And it has grown. We have a leadership track and a life skill track. So every day there's a leadership quality and either one or two life skills, depending on the number of speakers and talks
Mhm.
that we have, so
Yeah.
that we sort of even them out each day. And so the leadership is it's gonna talk with some general leadership, but then
Yeah.
the character, the love of learning, lifetime learning, critical thinking skills. And then we do have a day of just encouragement for moms and dads because we all need encouragement.
Yeah.
But I am super excited about life skills because we have some new things this year. I have well, she's actually a teacher at True North, Anna Knob.
Yes.
I just did it. She is teaching us how to make pasta, and y'all are like, and I'm like, it is so easy. I have made pasta before, but so we're
Mhm.
going to have some more hands-on thing. I have
Fun.
interviewed David Alford, who is a film director. He has either
Oh,
4 or 5 films that are just directed, distributed worldwide, and he gives some tips, especially for teens. I've interviewed Brett Gunnels, who is a NCAA and NBA former coach. He has
wow.
a whole thing about character. I have been,
Kerry.
there's a lot of
Wow.
things. And then today I interviewed a 17-year-old about music and composing your own music. I interviewed a 15-year-old on photography. Now, that's sort of all the fun ones, but then we do have relationship communication, text skills. I interviewed Andrew Pudawa about AI and how that's taking some thinking skills out of our kids. So there's a lot of really good time. I'm not going to name all of them. Lisa's one of ours for entrepreneurship, and so I just have a heart for that. Stop. So sorry.
No, it's
That's my
okay.
Mr. Google. Maybe you can edit that out. Anyway, we've got some great speakers. Something new that we are doing this year is for every talk that we have underneath it in your member area, it will have a quick win. And if it's a
Awesome.
teen appropriate, like the photography, there's a quick win for mom and a quick win for teens. On Lisa's, there's a quick win for teen entrepreneurs and moms either encouraging or being an entrepreneur themselves.
Love it.
Because we don't want you coming and then the next week go, well, that was good. Let's just move on. We want you to
Right.
apply the things that you hear at Life Skills Leadership Summit.
Awesome. So we're going to put all the information in the show notes and the blog post so you can find this very easily. And the tickets are free to start with, right? Right.
Yes, you can watch. It's your 24 hours. So at 1 o'clock Central every day, we will release that day's. I will say in the morning, I do a kickoff. I will be talking about a life skill that I wish I had given my kids, and that is quit believing the lies in your head, replace them with truth. And
Oh,
there's
I
going to be a
love it.
whole every day. We're going to talk about it
Nice.
for moms and then kids.
Yes.
We need this. And then we do a keynote. We'll run a keynote. And then we have a prayer time with Meredith, one of y'all's
Yeah.
teachers as well. And then at 1 o'clock, all that days are released, and you have till 1 o'clock the next day if you want it free. if you want to upgrade and take your time, or you're going to want to listen to them later on, you can upgrade for the VIP, and that price changes on
Hmm.
February 1st and then the first day of the summit as well.
I
And
love it.
so and it has some extra bells and whistles. The
Yeah.
VIP does a private podcast and things like that.
And this is like when you're talking about the people, you just did a couple highlights, but the speakers that you have are top notch. I mean, I just want to say this, like you guys are going to get such great value from this. When does it start, Kerry?
It starts February 23rd or 22nd actually is a
Okay.
Sunday night at 5 o'clock kickoff. But if you are a VIP and February 1st, VIPers get access to all the sessions, all the recorded sessions.
Yeah.
We'll add the live ones as well. And you'll get access to the swag bag early
Nice.
as well. And so
Yeah.
you've just got a little bit more time and you don't feel quite so pushed.
And the swag bag is fun. I'll just say that as somebody who participated in that a little bit. I mean, a lot of the speakers are giving really good quality things for the swag bag, so it's not just a bunch of cheesy stuff. It's actual value. I love that you put these events together, Carrie. It's really such a service to the homeschool community. And if you're just considering homeschooling, or you're not sure what educational path you want to go with your kids next year, this is a great event to just kind of check out some possibilities. And it's not just for homeschoolers. Everybody who has kids needs to teach your kids leadership and life skills, right? So
That
share
is
with a
so
friend.
true.
Yeah.
Well, and you said that too. We do have a Facebook group, that a big community, and that you get in there and ask your questions. You have a chance, and in our members area, you can leave a comment, and the speakers can come in, and you can interact with them as well. So it's not just drink from a fire hose. It's like we want you to bounce ideas and help each other. The synergy of a group working together to help each other.
Right. It just makes such a difference knowing that you're not alone. Education is such an important endeavor. It's not that hard to homeschool. Let's be honest. It's really not. But having tools and being equipped just gives you so much peace, and you're not wasting time buying curriculum that's not going to work for you or your family. And with the explosion of homeschooling, I just want to throw this out there. There's some like not really top-notch curriculum. And so really find somebody who knows some things or has gone ahead of you a little bit, and get those quality materials, because there's some great homeschooling materials on the market. And personally, I'd rather that you have quality stuff than something inferior or that's just going to be a waste of time or money. Kerry, any parting thoughts that you have for people about leadership or life skills? Anything you want to just like make sure that people hear? And also, you want to share a good book you've read lately?
Book I read or wrote?
Oh,
Read
either.
my recent book. Well, I've read my novel I just started reading was written in 1999. It's The Midnight Garden of Good and Evil, and it's our book club book. And
Okay.
so it's a mystery, it's a murder, but it was actually a true story set in Savannah. So I'm excited because I've been to Savannah. But a book that I just read a week or two ago is Praying Like Monks, Living Like Fools. And
Oh, I've
it's
heard of
written by a
that
guy
book.
named Tyler Staton. And it was excellent. I mean, I don't know. It just really encouraged me in some new ways in my prayer life. And I have a prayer dinner once a month. And one of the girls that comes regularly in December brought a copy for all of us as a little Christmas
Aw,
gift. And so it was very encouraging. And so
nice.
anyway,
Yeah.
I could go on and on about books. Just go to
Yeah.
my Goodreads. But anyway, I love books. So,
Yeah.
parting comments. I would say don't overwhelm yourself. Take
Mhm.
a step back. Enjoy your kids. They're going to be gone and
Yeah.
quickly. Enjoy your kids. Have fun. Maybe do less with them. Just do things more, just choose the most important. And
Mhm.
then finally, I said this at the beginning, give yourself grace and patience. Don't beat yourself up and worry about this. Give your kids grace and patience as you walk together.
Mhm.
God is refining all of us,
Yeah.
you and your kids as well. So just He
Yes.
gives you grace and patience. You can give yourself that too.
That's a great word. Kerry, thank you for joining us on the podcast. It's not that hard to homeschool. I'm your host, Lisa Nehring. Listen, it's not that hard to homeschool. We know you can do it. We'll talk to you next time. Take care, everybody.